Hey team, I have one of my absolute most favorite pieces that we do here for today. This is our slab mask here. We have three different forms of pottery that we work with at Mud Skippers with our students. The first is coil pots, the second is pinch pots, the third is slab. So slab just means flat. You can see if I turn it on its side, it's very thin. It's not really a vessel, it is more of a decorative piece. So we have one piece here that's been bisque fired, nice and hard. This means it's already gone through the kiln. So it started out like this. The kids built the piece and then we put it through the kiln. It came back nice and vitrified like this, hard as rock. And then I have one that's just painted. It's just got like a matte paint on it. So these are super fun for the kids to get really imaginative with. And I think this is probably one of the kids' most favorite pieces as well. So I'm going to start with our lesson plan here. Looks the same as always. These are masks by Kimmy Cantrell. So Kimmy Cantrell is an artist from Atlanta, Georgia. He's still a current artist. He still makes work. He creates cubist-inspired sculptural masks. He uses unique patterns to add dimension, and his masks are reminiscent of Picasso's painted masks. I'm going to turn it on the back here. So when you are reading your little art history blurb right here, the kids will be looking at these gorgeous masks that he makes. So this is actually all made out of ceramics. He is a ceramic artist, which are not, there's not a ton of ceramic artists that we can really study. So that's why we usually end up using like paintings as our inspiration. So this one is extra special. So we've got the artist down here, one of his big giant masks. The kids will love passing this around and looking at all the different colors. There's so many different ways that you can place all these different shapes, and the kids really get to design, whatever they want with this. So if you want, I have had my students before, I've given them an extra piece of paper and had them draw out their shape. So generally speaking, the shape of this is going to be just like this. It's going to be like that. And sometimes the kids will want to draw, a different shape, and that's totally fine too. I definitely would suggest that you have something protruding, something sticking out. We don't want just like a circle mask. That is going to be very boring. Very one-dimensional. So make sure that they have some little thing sticking out there. With that being said, you don't want this to come out like this far. That will be way too long and thin, and that piece will get broken off. So this is the general idea of what you want this to be. Now, when you guys have these examples for your students, we don't have a template for this project. I am trusting you guys to make sure they're the appropriate size. So when you are watching your students design and build, you need to tell them, hey guys, this is the size that you want your piece to be. We don't want it any bigger than this, because what happens is it ends up being too thin. It cracks, it breaks. There's no room for it in the kiln. We only have a certain amount of room for all of our students work in the kiln. So I'm going to go through this project. We're going to read just step by step exactly how it is in here. There's not enough room for all of this on the film, but you guys will just have to trust me, I guess. So step one is we are going to flatten our clay by pancaking it in our hands. Use the same motion like you're flattening pizza dough. Do not flatten it on the table. It will stick. If your students are hammering down like this, one, they're making so much noise. Two, when they go to pull this up, I can promise you it will be stuck to the mat. So tell your students, don't do that. Pancake it with your hands. We all know how to patty cake back and forth. Now, the thickness of our clay that we are going for, obviously, is like that, right? So everything that we shoot for in pottery is about the thickness of a pencil. That's what we're going for. Any thinner than this, it's got a pretty good chance of cracking or breaking. Any thicker than that, then you've got a good chance of it exploding in the kiln. If your clay is a little bit thicker in the center, just press it down with your hands. That's all. The kids can feel, the difference. We'll take a look at that. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm going to put my piece down. Hold on. I'm a perfectionist, so that little bump's going to bother me. I'm going to put my piece down. Step number 2, use your pencil tool to draw the outline of your mask onto a flattened slab of clay. Here's what I tell the kids. Draw it lightly, because if you don't like the shape, if you mess it up, you can just use your finger to erase it. So if I draw this shape like this, and I'm like, blah, I don't like that. It's nice and light in there. I can use my finger and I can just erase it like that. That's so easy, right? We can have your students like utilize the entire amount of clay here for their piece, because you don't want them going home with like micro masks. Parents wouldn't be real happy about that. So try and utilize your entire piece. So I'm gonna do my little bump out there. My U is gonna go all the way down to the bottom. Good, I like that. Once you're happy with that, you can take the outline and you can use your pencil, just dig down deeper, and then you're going to cut it out. So this pencil tool is really all you need. A long time ago, we used to use all different kinds of clay tools, and we found that they're really just so extra and you don't need them. You can absolutely cut with a pencil. Boop, that's it. Now, this is going to be a little bit stuck because of the nature of the pencil pressing it down into that. That's totally fine. Just be gentle when you pull it up. I want you to make sure when you cut your clay, it's going to get these little burrs. So give each of your students like a wet paper towel. And here with our tools, we have the same tools that we always have. A paintbrush if needed, often not needed. A pencil, our water, which of course this is going to be for sharing. It's not going to be per student, because then you would have kids knocking over water and it would be a giant mess. But they can share that, and then they'll have a nice damp paper towel. I like to remind my students, damp means it's not soaking wet. There should not be water dripping off of this. If you add too much water to your clay, it's going to get really, really sloppy. Now, the opposite of that is if they have remade their mask a million times, unfortunately, it is going to get really dry and cracky on them. So once you have the shape that you like, we're going to take our remainder clay, ball it back up so we have a nice little canvas here, flatten it out again. You want it to be about the same thickness as your mask was. If it's a little bit thinner, that's okay too though, because this is for the parts that are going on top. So this is our little kind of 3D bump out right there. So I tell the kids to make at least, with this clay to add on top of it, we're going to make at least a nose, one eye, and a mouth. All three of those items. Now, a nose can be any shape that it wants to be. I like this kind of weird-ish triangle shape. I don't really know what to call that. Again, tell the kids when they're drawing their shapes to make sure they draw it really lightly on their clay. So if they don't like it, they can erase it with their finger and start again. I like this shape, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it up. So I've got my nose. I'm going to lay my nose on there. I'm not going to attach it yet. I'm just going to lay it like that. One eyeball. The eyeball can be any shape that they want it to be. If they want it to be a circle, that's fine. If they want it to be, I don't know, an eyeball shape, I think that's, I don't know what this is called. I went to art school. You'd think I would know what all the shapes are called. I, however, do not. Let's get funky. Let's turn our eyeballs like this. I like that. And then let's make some lips. They can make the lips however they want to make them. This one I'm going to make, some of your examples, the lips will be divided. I'm not feeling that into it today, so I'm actually just going to leave my lips together, and then we'll draw a little line to make them divided. I made my lips there. Now, when you're attaching your stuff, it's okay if it hangs over a little bit. What you don't want is you don't want it to hang over that much, because that's going to snap off. That's going to snap right off. So as much of it on your piece as possible, and then we will, after we attach, we will draw these little designs on there. So let's talk about the important ways that we attach things. So here in pottery, if you've never taught with us before, you probably saw this in our intro, our training video. We have 3 things that we do in pottery to attach the clay to itself. So this is not magically going to stay. You can't just place this on here and, pray to the ceramic gods that this will not fall off. It's definitely going to fall off. When it dries, it's going to separate and fall off. So in order to keep this nice and secure and snug on here, we've got to do 3 things. And in pottery, we call these things, number 1, score. Number 2, slip. And number 3, blend. I wish I had like a cuter way to make those things make more sense, but I do not. So scoring is really simple. We're basically creating a Velcro to attach the clay to itself. So we have 2 pieces that are trying to attach this piece to this piece. Wherever they're touching, we want to score it. Scoring is literally just making a hashtag. All the kids know what a hashtag is. I remember when we first started teaching, Instagram was like brand new and we were telling the kids hashtags and they didn't even know what that was. So that is how long we have been teaching this lesson. So we have our scoring, it's our hashtag. Our slip is basically another word for our water. Slip technically is a watered down version of clay that in ancient times we actually made for all of our students, but we teach so many students now that there's just no way we could do that. So I have my slip, that's my water. I'm gonna put my little nose on there. I'm gonna press it down. This is probably the most important part. If your students forget to slip or they forget to score, this is the absolute most important part, and that is that you blend. Now, when you blend, that means that we're trying to combine this piece of clay to this piece of clay. So right now, they're technically 2 separate pieces of clay. If I were to bend it, you could see that one was coming up, right? So in order to make this one piece of clay, I'm going to take my pencil and I just tell the kids, make this line disappear right there. That's all you have to do. Go in with your pencil, boom, gone. Boom, gone. Right there. And then up there. I also like to tell my kids, hey, if you don't do this, we set the expectation on day 1. If you don't do this, please do not be sad if your piece comes back and it's missing something, because, that's going to be the number one reason that stuff is going to fall off of here is going to be because it was not blended enough. So got my eyeball. I've done my score. That's our hashtag on both sides. A little dipsy of water. I'm going to add my eyeball. Let's get, oh, you know what, guys? Those are my lips. Scratch that because that will not fit right there. I'm going to get crazy with my eyeball. We're going to kind of go at an angle right there. So I've added my slip / water. I'm going to blend it. There are not, your kindergartners, your first graders are not going to be very good at the blending, and that's okay. I always ask my teachers, hey, as you're going around helping people, see if you can blend things for the kids. When I sub a class, which unfortunately is not very often these days, I will literally go around to each student, pick up their piece, and just start blending while I'm talking to them. Hey, what'd you guys do yesterday? Did you have a good weekend? And I'm just like blending, throw it down, and they'll really appreciate that because their piece will come back and it won't be missing anything. So I've got my score, which is my hashtag. I got a little bit of water. I'm gonna attach my lips there. Give her a nice little press. I always tell my students, use your water. Don't make a giant slippy mess, but use your water so that you can make your piece nice and smooth. That will make the glazing process a lot easier, and it will make sure that you don't cut your poor little fingers, because when this clay goes through the kiln, these little burrs can get really, really sharp. Ta-da! There we go. We have a beautiful blank mask. The last step to our mask here is to add all of the different designs. Now, if they have this extra clay, they can either utilize it to add stuff on here or call it a day, give this back to you. Again, the rule and the expectation in our classroom always is the students cannot keep extra clay. Number one, clay is unbelievably expensive. We need to recycle this for the next class. So put it back in the plastic baggie, send it back with the work when you send it to the studio. That way we can reuse it and it'll come back, have a second life somewhere else. The second reason is if you don't have a kiln at home, which none of our students have a kiln at home, this is literally just going to turn to dust. The dust in clay releases silica, which can be harmful to breathe. So we tell our students it's just a hazard. You can't take this home. Occasionally you'll see students like trying to hide it and take it home. You just gotta say, hey buddy, you can't keep that. It's not safe for you. So the last step to our little mask here is we need to add our designs and our texture to it. So when I say designs and texture, what I mean are these lines here. These fun lines that they're going to use to separate and paint different colors. So they can absolutely do it however they want. I think when I make these examples, I tend to follow a certain pattern. I'm definitely a creature of habit. when they are making their, I'm going to give it a little smile. It's happy. It's a happy little mask. When they are making their circles, the best thing to use to make the circle is the tip of your pencil right here. And I always tell my kids, this is literally all you need. You need a pencil. If you want, you know, a different size circle, you got this guy right here. You can stick that in there. You have absolutely everything that you need right here. I'm going to do some cute eyelashes on this little mask. They deserve eyelashes. And then I'm going to put, I don't know, a few more designs. We'll give it some little freckles. Your kids should have plenty of ideas for what they want to put on their mask. But if they need any ideas, you can just tell them, you know, basic shapes, dots, circles, lines, very, very simple. If it's still looking too plain, or if you have a student that's an early finisher, go ahead and tell them, go back and add some more details, add some more texture, get creative. That's one of their least favorite things to hear from me, but you don't want to have an early finisher just kind of running around bananas. You guys will always have your spare modeling clay for the students to use when they finish, if they're early finishers, if they do not want to do free draw clay. Some of the kids get bored after one day of free draw. They don't want to do it, or maybe they're not very good at drawing. Ironically, I started as a painter in art school. I was so bad at drawing that they were like, you need to not do this, switch to something else. And that's how I ended up in ceramics. So if they don't want to draw, that's okay. You'll have your little bag of extra modeling clay like this. You do have to reuse it every single class, so don't let your students take that home. That is not a for keeps modeling clay. The last 2 days of classes, they will get to do their own for keeps modeling clay, but this one is just to keep them busy. Have them play restaurant with it, whatever they want to do. All right, so I think this is pretty cute. I like it. To get the lips a little bit of texture. That's it. We're going to call it a day. Last thing that we need to do, teachers, you, not the students. I can't read their cute little handwriting. I know that some of them want to be big kids, so that's fine. If they want to write their name on it, I just need you to write it again for them so that I can read it. With the slab pieces, they often, because they're sitting on the entire back, the names will get smushed, which makes it hard to read. So I always ask my teachers, write the name as big as possible, so I have as many chances to guess what the name is. So you need to write the full first name. Yes, the full first name. Please do not just write an initial. So I'm writing this as big as I can. My name is Alyssa. My last name is Brooks. We only need the initial for the last name. You don't have to write the full last name. Some of these kids have giant last names. I know my kids have 2 last names, one from me and one from my husband, so that would be impossible to write on there. So Alyssa B, that is good. Get it nice and big. Make sure whenever you are returning your slab pieces, when you put them in your bin to return, they need to be divided by paper towels, not wet paper towels, because that will completely destroy them. Dry paper towels. So grab a paper towel from either the school or one that we've sent you and lay a layer in between, stacking them. So we're going to pretend, just because I don't have a dry paper towel right now, we're going to pretend that this one is dry. Pretend it is not wet. If you are stacking on top, that's okay. You're just going to need to put a paper towel down, stack your next piece on top, put a paper towel down. I wouldn't go more than 3 because then the pressure will just absolutely crush what's on the bottom. This way, when it gets to the studio and we're taking it out of your bin, they're not stuck together. If you put wet clay on top of wet clay and it sits for a week, it's going to try and be bonded together and it's going to rip little chunks off when I take it off. So make sure you divide all of your slab work always with a dry paper towel. So that's pretty much it for this one. I hope that this one is really fun for you guys. I hope that the kids get to really flex their creative muscles with this one. If you find after your first class that this is going too quickly and you have too much time left at the end, a really good tip is to have the kids design this on a piece of paper before they even start. That way they know what ideas they're going to do. They can kind of workshop it and it just helps eat up some more of that time. As always, let me know if you have any questions or comments, and we'll see you around.